Hi, thanks for joining me for quick business tips. Your home for simple business growth for the human behind the brand. I'm Jennifer Swineford. Have you ever noticed that in almost every industry, there is a lot of the same information that's being repeated? So you scroll through social media, you read a few articles, and everyone's giving the same advice. Be authentic, build a sales funnel, know your numbers. And it's all good advice, but it starts to sound super generic. And if you find yourself in that sea of sameness, you can oftentimes feel like you are competing purely on your personality, your network, or your price. And it can be exhausting trying to prove that you are different or better. And a lot of times it can feel like you become a commodity, even if you are a high quality commodity. So today we're going to talk about how to remove yourself from that sameness and become a category of one. We're going to dive into how to develop your own signature framework, which is just a unique process that only you can teach in a way that only you can teach it. And it will position you as a true thought leader, and it can fundamentally change the game for your business. So, what happens when you decide to make that change from sharing generic advice to creating and even giving a name to your very own framework? Let me tell you from firsthand experience that transformation is profound, both professionally and personally. You get to stop being the same as everybody else and stand out from the crowd. Because when you teach your specific documented process for getting the result that you get for your customers, you are no longer just a choice that feels the same as all the other choices. You become the solution for clients that really resonate with the way that you solve this problem. And by becoming that like no-brainer solution, you can unlock three really important things for your business. It allows you to have power in your pricing. You stop selling your time or even just your general expertise, and you start selling this proprietary system. It lets you detach from that whole time for money trade model that we talked about in a previous episode and start commanding premium value-based fees because you are the only person that offers the solution in this exact way. And don't get wrapped up in the fact that, well, my framework solves the same problem that somebody else solves. It doesn't matter. You do it differently, and I know you do because no two people are exactly alike. Now, the second thing that it's going to unlock for your business is it lets you really have power in your marketing. When your framework becomes the core of your marketing strategy, you talk about it on podcasts, in your content, on stages where you're speaking, and it pulls in the perfect center of the bullseye clients who are seeking your exact solution rather than you constantly having to go out and hunt for them or chase them. And the third thing that it unlocks is scalability. Because when you are the person teaching this and you don't really have a well-documented framework, then you can only scale as much as you are able to as a single person. But when you are scaling a process, by using a documented framework as the foundation for a high ticket program, whether it's a group coaching, a digital course, or even a book, you can even use this framework to certify other professionals to teach your exact process. That can transform your solopreneur type business into intellectual property that grows so far beyond your own container of time and space and availability. And the bonus, the cherry on top of all of this, is what it unlocks on a personal level. It will give you unshakable confidence that comes from knowing that you're not just one of many. You're not an expert that's teaching the same common knowledge that everybody else is teaching. You become the person who created this blueprint or framework or process, and it shifts you from being an expert into a real thought leader. So when I say signature framework, some of you might say, okay, that doesn't apply to me or my business, because you start pulling together a picture of an academic diagram or a 100-page dissertation. And so let's just get this out of the way. Your framework doesn't have to be intimidating. The more simple you make it, the more clear it is for your customer, the more powerful it becomes. It can be one of these frameworks in most cases. Either it's a step-by-step process, which is usually the most common and easiest to understand. It's a logical sequence of 5 or 8 or 3 phases or steps that your client is going to go through to achieve a specific result. So this might be the 5-step client attraction system. It's simple, it's easy, I understand it, and it doesn't feel intimidating. If this was the 25-step client attraction system, I'd be like, yeah, no, that sounds horrible. I don't want to take 25 steps to attract a client. Now, the second way that you can format your framework is by using an acronym. A lot of people like them. They're cute, they're fun, they're easy to remember, and they're easy to share because each letter represents a key step in your process. So if you have the clarity method, then the C would stand for one thing, the L would stand for one thing. It's like an acrostic that we did back in grade school. So this ends up being a 6-step method to clarifying your marketing message or something like that. But we end up calling it the clarity method, make it all capital letters. You can put dots in between each letter, and now it becomes a signature framework. The third format that is most common in signature frameworks is a visual model. So this might be a pyramid, a circle, a funnel, or some kind of other simple diagram that visually explains all the parts of how your process works together. So it might be the business growth flywheel, or I have the customer journey accelerator. And it is a series of steps. It kind of looks like a game board. And it shows you how your customer moves through your business and becomes, well, take someone from a stranger and moves them into a customer and then referral partner. But the key to a signature framework is that it's repeatable, definable, and teachable to somebody else so that you are able to consistently get specific results for anyone who uses it. Okay, so now we're clear on what we're talking about when we use the word framework, and you want one, but maybe you're not sure where to start. Your framework isn't something that comes out of thin air. It's not something that you discover by dissecting your work. And you usually are already competent in this, meaning that you get incredible results using this anyway. You just haven't documented how to do it and how to make it simple and teachable for somebody else. So I am going to walk you through 4 steps so that we are going to break down what you're already doing and help you turn it into a signature framework. The first thing that you have to do, and if you've been around for very long, you've heard me say this over and over and over again, you need to identify who your center of the bullseye customer is. One specific real person. This is a client that got the best results using the system that you have been using over and over and over on repeat, whether you realize it or not. Not only did they get good results, you absolutely loved working with them. You were excited to jump out of bed and get on a Zoom call or get on a phone call or go see them at their office every single day. And the transformation that you made in their life or their business makes you proud. So that is the person that you want to think about as you go through the next three steps. You want to take out a piece of paper, a whiteboard, however you work the best, and map out what your client did on their journey with you. So you want to start out with their very specific acute pain point that they showed up with before they hired you. What were they thinking, feeling, struggling with? And then the last step of this journey is the outcome that they got after they were done working with you. What does their life or their business look like now? What are they thinking now? What are they feeling now? How has their life changed? And fill in the steps that happened in between the first and the last. Step three is you need to start brain dumping a few answers to questions. So, what are 3 to 5 things that you always, always, always do during onboarding a new client? What is the first major win that you helped guide your clients towards? What is the biggest hurdle that you help your clients overcome? Usually comes in the middle of the project. What specific advice do you give your clients almost all the time? So you can think about the one perfect client that we picked in step one. What advice did you give them? And then check it. Do you give that advice most of the time? Definitely want to write that one down. What questions are your customers asking you when they end up becoming some of your best clients? So you know who your best clients are. What were the questions that they asked before they hired you or along the way? And the last question is, how were you able to ensure that you were going to find success for your clients, hopefully before they hired you? So just jot down any thoughts that come to mind as you think through those questions. You can think about the client, the perfect, amazing, wonderful client that you chose in step one. And then also think about the other clients that you really enjoyed working with and see if this was like a one-off situation or if that is reflected in a lot of your other clients. Those are the answers that we want to pull up. Now, look at everything that you've thrown on this piece of paper. It's going to be hopefully full of bullet points and scribbled notes and things that came to mind. And you want to start grouping all of these action steps and insights and things into 5 or 8. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's really basic. And you want to put them into phases or stages or steps. So, what's the natural progression that goes from step one to step Z? Okay. So you might start out with a discovery call. Then you have strategic planning, implementation, optimization. So these are some of the things that typically show up in frameworks. By the end of this particular exercise, you should have a very raw, very rough draft of a signature framework based on a real customer that you got real results for. This is not just theory. This doesn't just look good on paper. This is something that you can say, I use this framework and I got these very specific results for this client. The best part is then you get to look at this framework and think of your other clients that you've worked with, and you should have 3 to 5 really amazing specific examples that you can give of people that have used this exact framework, even before you named the framework and labeled the framework and really wrote it down on paper. So now you have some very rough stages that go into your framework. You have results already that you've gotten for customers. Now you need to start really massaging all of this raw data and turning it into something that's memorable and marketable and something that you can claim as your very own. This is where you really start taking your genius and tying it up in a pretty bowl. So, the number one rule here is to be clear far, 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 far more than you are cute. So resist the urge that everybody has to come up with this clever, abstract name that sounds super cool, but doesn't tell anyone what it really does. So the A1 Achievers Framework might sound amazing, and you might Google it, and nobody else has taken that name. But it doesn't tell me anything about who it's for or the results that I'm going to get. What problem does it solve? What industry is it for? I have no information. This could be a framework that you can apply to anybody, any coach, any consultant, anybody. But if you come up with a name like the $1 million commission realtor, sorry, there's no A in there, realtor. Um, if you come up with a name like that, you know it's for realtors, and you know that if you go through this framework, you should get higher commissions or $1 million commissions. So it is super, super clear. It may not be the cutest name in the world, but clarity over cuteness is going to work every single time. This is not just for the name of your framework, but for all of the steps that are inside it. So you want your framework name to ideally communicate who it's for, what problem it solves, and what outcome it delivers. Don't be afraid of being direct. Don't start searching the thesaurus for synonyms to words so that it can be pretty or sound smarter or something else. Clear is best. So, does your framework help you scale a business? Does it help you generate leads? Does it help you find purpose in your life? The name of the framework should reflect that. You also probably need to name each individual stage. And those should have clear description, benefit-oriented names. So instead of step one being planning, which is how it might be written down on your very raw, rough draft, make step one blueprint for sales. Instead of step two being implementation, you can call it growth acceleration. You definitely want there to be a little bit of a mini outcome in and of itself, or just clearly explain what phase it's on. Don't overthink it. And please do not wait until you feel like you have perfection here. If If step one is planning and step two is implementation and your brain is just fried, that's fine. That works. That is clear. That's not clunky. Like now, if you had get the work done, if that's your personality, that's fine. Implementation sounds a little bit more polished. You know, do what feels good for you, not what you think is the most perfect thing. Because in every case, done is so much better than perfect. Because the goal here is simply to create a name that's easy for someone to understand, remember, and possibly even repeat to other people. The name of your framework becomes a promise of the transformation that they're going to get. And it should reflect that promise with crystal clarity. Now, developing your framework isn't something that's going to be done in a 20-minute podcast. And it's far more than just a marketing tactic. This is quite possibly your first piece of intellectual property. It makes you an expert in your field, gives you unmatched confidence, and really makes you stand out in a crowded market. It lets you go one, two, or 10 steps further than just sharing general generic tips and really allows you to step into your power as a thought leader. So take the time to document your process that you work through with your clients. And then if you decide that you want extra help creating strategy and implementation, this is exactly what we do at Limitless Impact Agency. And I would love to get on a call with you. There's no obligation. We'll talk about where you are and where you would like to be and see if I have something that can help you. If I don't, I probably know someone who does. Because I know that you have a very unique way of getting results for your customers. And it is time for you to own that, name it, and teach it to other people. So you can stop being a commodity and start building your business on a unique, customized framework that you teach your clients. Until next time, keep leading with integrity, serving with heart, and striving for your own limitless impact.